What if I told you there's a LEGO game some people like more than the complete saga? I know what you're thinking. The complete saga is often regarded as the peak of human achievement. And you're telling me that there are people who think that this isn't even the best LEGO game? I know it might sound strange, but there is a LEGO game that, when analyzed, could be considered even better than the complete saga. There is a LEGO game that takes everything from the complete saga and expands on it massively. Allow me to introduce you to LEGO Star Wars 3: The Clone Wars. Throughout Episode 3, it's made pretty obvious that Anakin and Obi-Wan have been on quite a few adventures together. On top of that, the movie starts smack dab in the middle of a war that we barely know anything about, which opens up a ton of storytelling potential. So when George Lucas announced an animated Star Wars series was coming in August 2005, it probably felt more like an obvious choice than a surprising one. The series was released in 2008, along with a movie, and became one of the most popular television shows of its era. Not only was it able to average millions of viewers per episode, but was also massively praised for the stories that it told. And I'm sure that when the positive reception came in, Lucasfilm knew that they had a goldmine on their hands. In came action figures, LEGO sets, and of course video games. The other Clone Wars games are a story for another day, but in terms of LEGO Star Wars 3, there isn't a lot of information about its development available online. It apparently started at the end of 2009 and was finished at the end of 2010. In order to promote the game, there's a flash game released on LEGO Star Wars 3's official website. It was apparently an MMO where you could play minigames to unlock things to customize your character. Unfortunately, this was deleted in 2013 and most of its assets haven't resurfaced, making this a case of lost media. Back to the main game though, it finally released in March 2011, right as the third season of the Clone Wars series was about to finish. Despite being very invested in the Clone Wars series as a kid, I never actually played this game back in the day. It wasn't until my teenage years that I finally played the game in order to prepare for the Skywalker Saga's release. Because of that, this is going to be the first retrospective for a game that I don't have any nostalgia for. That being said, let's get into the game itself. Once you finish the first level of the game, you'll find yourself on the command bridge of a Republic Venator ship. You're right in front of a command center where you're able to access the 6 core elements of this game. At first, you'll only be able to enter missions, but you'll be able to unlock the other options over time. These other options include traveling to planets, switching your character, entering the Versus mode, and playing the brand new Assault missions. If this was it, the hub world would have been kind of disappointing, but the area you spawn in is just a fraction of the hub. This is definitely something that makes LEGO Star Wars 3 stand out. As you finish levels and get gold bricks, you'll have the ability to explore a large portion of the ship. And it's not just exploration for the sake of exploration, pretty much each area has its own use. And even in the areas that don't, you can usually find a red brick hiding somewhere, and characters walking around that you can buy. And that's not even the whole hub. If you get enough gold bricks to access the hangar, you can buy a vehicle and fly into the invisible hand. This has even more stuff, more red bricks, and more rooms to explore. And if you're ever far away from the Republic Bridge, there are command centers all around the place so you don't have to go halfway across the galaxy just to switch your favorite character. What I like so much about this game's hub is the fact that it gives you an incentive to explore. The Complete Saga's hub is pretty small in comparison, and if you've already played all the levels, there's not really much to do. LEGO Star Wars 3's hub completely changes that. This feels like a natural evolution of the LEGO game hub world, and it's something that makes so many other people hold this game in such high regard. Another thing that people like about this game is the mechanics. As it's a Star Wars game, we have the usual Jedi and Sith who can use the Force, but this game slightly changed how that mechanic works. Whenever you force something to move it, it's no longer a scripted movement. You're the one who gets control over where it goes. To me, this mechanic makes it feel a lot more like you're actually using the Force. Using the Force in the Complete Saga is alright. When all you have to do is hold a button for a few seconds, it doesn't feel that immersive. LEGO Star Wars 3's version requires a bit of strategy. In a puzzle where you have to put things in a certain place, it won't always be immediately obvious where something needs to go, which adds depth to this game's puzzles. At times, it can be a bit frustrating to not know how to figure out a puzzle immediately, but the satisfaction of finally figuring it out usually outweighs that frustration. Because of that, I would say that the tweak force mechanics are an improvement. Speaking of puzzles, do you consider doing a very small memory game to be a puzzle? Well, if you do, then protocol droid panels are just as much of a puzzle as the segments I just talked about. You can't just sit back and let C3PO do all the work anymore. You gotta lock in yourself. Along with that, we also have places to cut a hole with a lightsaber. There are three major types of this to my knowledge. One where you watch an animation to break through glass, another where you cut out a circle, and another with a small oval. The glass breaking ones would probably be my least favorite by default, and the circular ones are alright, but to me the oval shaped ones are so satisfying to cut through. Unlike the circular one, you can cut it pretty much as fast as you can swing around your analog stick. It's silky smooth, and I love it every time I see it. In some episodes of the Clone Wars series, there are times where two sets of main characters are at different places at the same time, and I'm sure there was debate among the development team regarding how to adapt these. You could just ignore one set of characters and only adapt the other, but that might disappoint fans who want to see adaptations of both sets of characters. We could also make two levels out of a certain episode, with each level focusing on different sets of characters, but it's very possible that this could make the game feel bloated. Instead of doing one of those ideas, the developers decided to implement a system where there are two scenes in the same level at the same time. If there's a segment where one set of characters can't progress the level, you can hold the character toggle button to switch to the other set, where you can then do something like opening a door so the first set can continue the level. I don't really have strong opinions about how these types of levels play out, but I understand that it's pretty much necessary in order to play through a more show-accurate version of the level, and for that, I'm glad it's here. In LEGO Star Wars 3, clone troopers don't just act as generic blaster characters, they have the ability to set detonator charges in certain places, and any commander clone trooper can recruit other clones to help shoot at something. This makes a lot of sense, since it is the Clone Wars after all. When they're so significant to the story, it makes sense to give them an incentive to be used compared to any other character with a blaster. Oh, I almost forgot to mention that clone characters have droid poppers. At first I thought these were grenades, but these seem to only have an effect on droids. Not only is this accurate to the show, but this is also really satisfying to use, especially in the rooftop section of the hidden enemy where droids pretty much cover the entire area. Silver explosive objects return once again, and along with it comes new gold ones. These can technically be destroyed by any type of blaster fire, but only if the fire is done in incredibly fast succession. There are also some interesting character classes that only have a few characters each. High jumping returns from the complete saga, although Jar Jar Binks is literally the only character that has this ability. General Grievous and the Magna Guard weren't high jumpers in this game, despite being so in the complete saga. Not really sure why this is even a class in the first place if only one character can use it. We've also got snipers, which can aim through a very zoomed in scope. The only three characters that use snipers are bounty hunters, and to my knowledge it's only useful in the hostage crisis level. In some levels, you'll find a panel with a TX-20 head on it. In story mode, you'll have to take out the head of a nearby TX and put it on temporarily to use the panel. Better do it quickly though, because that TX will take its head right back if it catches you. This can be slightly annoying, but in free play mode that's all thrown away, as 5 different separatist characters can unlock the panel without having to do all that. We also have electrical panels in certain areas that the game tells you can only be powered by certain characters like Robo Nino. For the majority of story mode, you probably won't have access to these since the only 2 characters that can use them are unlocked in bonus levels that need gold bricks to unlock. After writing the script for this section, I can definitely see why the mechanics are a reason people love this game so much. Because of the variety. While doing research, I kept finding more and more things that were added to the point where this part of the script became over 2 pages long. Even with all of that, it's definitely possible that I still missed something. In terms of just numbers alone, LEGO Star Wars 3 is a huge leap in mechanics from the complete saga. It also helps LEGO Star Wars 3's case that a lot of the mechanics were upgrades in my eyes. Just like any LEGO Star Wars game, this one's split into on-foot levels and vehicle levels. On-foot levels can actually be divided into 2 subtypes. There's the more traditional ones that play exactly how you'd expect them to, and there's also the large-scale battle levels. These are usually one incredibly large flat room where your goal is to take over all the enemy's command posts. This aspect of it is pretty easy, since to my knowledge the enemy can't retake command posts. Because of that, the main appeal of these levels comes from all the ways you can carry out your mission. When you're in your own command post, there are sections where you can build certain things to help you. You can build a cannon to defend yourself, troop barracks which spawn a squad of troops, air support to bring in heavy guns, and a few other things I didn't really use. It's essentially a simplified version of Star Wars Battlefront's gameplay. If you're a fan of that game, then I wouldn't be surprised if you enjoyed these levels as well. There are only two potential downsides to this kind of level I can think of. The first is that it doesn't feel that much like an actual battle to me. Although sometimes I'll catch myself admiring what's going on and think, wow, I'm in the Clone Wars, and then get absolutely annihilated by an enemy cannon. But that feeling happens pretty infrequently. The other downside is that these levels can be quite long, which can be a problem if you don't like this level format. Personally, I like them, so it's not an issue for me. The vehicle levels are pretty interesting too. If you came in expecting your granddad's LEGO Star Wars vehicle levels, you're going to be as shocked as Cody and Rex finding out Slick was the spy. First of all, you'll find these couplings that'll allow you to move up and down. It can be a little frustrating when you're trying to find one, but the fact that this allows the vehicle levels to enter a third dimension is cool enough that I can look past it. In this game, the line between vehicle levels and on foot levels is really blurred. It doesn't matter if you start in a vehicle, start on foot, or even spend 90% of the level on foot. You could transition from one to the other at any time. Since many episodes of the Clone Wars play out this way, I think it makes perfect sense to have this type of fusion. Since this game adapts a TV show instead of a movie, the levels are grouped by who you're going after. In one section, you'll go after Count Dooku, in another General Grievous, and in the other Asajj Ventress. There are 6 levels in each chapter, along with a prologue and epilogue level, totaling 20 main levels as a whole. But once you complete those, you're still far from done. Once you gain access to certain parts of the hub, you unlock the ability to play assault missions, playing as either the Republic or Separatists based on which hub you unlocked it in. At first I thought this would just be claiming all of the command posts, and that is the case for some planets. But there are certain ones where you have to do something different. These are also under what felt like a pretty strict time limit. The different things that you have to do don't really do much for me. They still work very similarly to the standard conquer every command post missions, which seem to be the majority of them. I honestly don't think there's much reason to play through this, unless you want to 100% the game. It starts to get monotonous after a while, and even getting some quality of life extras didn't make it more interesting for me. Whenever I hear people praise LEGO Star Wars 3, I don't think I've ever heard someone mention these assault missions. When it comes to the levels in this game, I would say that the main 20 plus the 2 bonus levels are worth playing, while the assault levels aren't. While this game has slightly fewer characters than the Complete Saga, I still think it's an impressive feat. Remember, the Complete Saga covers 6 different movies from 2 different trilogies. The fact that LEGO Star Wars 3 was able to get so many recognizable characters while covering a lesser diversity of content is pretty impressive. I think the source material helps quite a lot. The Clone Wars is all about exploring stories of tons of different characters, so it feels really natural for this game to have such a large character roster. And it's not like the first Indiana Jones game where a decent amount of characters don't even have a name. One of the features that beefs up the character roster is the mini-kit characters. When you collect 10 mini-kits in a level, you don't just get a gold brick, you also unlock a brand new bonus character. Most of these characters come from the original trilogy, but there's also 2 from A Phantom Menace, and even Starkiller from the Force Unleashed series. His appearance is notable for not only being a character that originated from a video game, but also the fact that he's no longer considered canon. I really like this feature of having mini-kit characters. Getting a gold brick is nice and all, but the fact that you get rewarded with a bonus character on top of that makes it a lot more enticing for the player to rush back to levels in free play, even if one of the mini-kits forces you to do math. The only character that can't be unlocked normally is Savage Opress, which can only be unlocked by entering a cheat code. For context, this character debuted in a Clone Wars episode from January 2011, which was about 2 months before this game was released. It's possible that the developers only found out about the character very late into development and didn't have enough time to make him unlockable normally. And that's not all when it comes to characters. Custom characters returned as usual, although now we have 18 slots instead of just 2. If we only had 2 in this game, then it would be a case where I wouldn't think it was a big deal, but the fact that we get 9 times more really is the icing on the cake. You could make the whole 2007 Cleveland Cavaliers starting lineup if you want. Because of how this game works, there are 2 different types of vehicles, one being the starships you control in vehicle levels and the ground vehicles used in battle levels. I don't really have much to say about the starfighter vehicles. There's a similar amount compared to the complete saga, excluding the minikit vehicles, and in LEGO Star Wars 3 some vehicles can destroy gold or silver objects. You can use them in levels, and in between both capital ships in the hub. For ground vehicles, we have a great selection of tanks and speeders that define the Clone Wars as we know it. The mighty ATTE, the revolutionary RX-200, the unstoppable Separatist super tank, and of course, the iconic, the unforgettable, the quintessential weapon of the Clone Wars, the tractor mower. Wait, what? Yeah, so not only does this game have a handful of war machines, we also have a few goofy vehicles which have no purpose other than just being goofy. Have you ever wanted to fight in a war rushing the enemy in an ice cream truck? I mean, you'd probably be demoted to janitor if you did that. But hey, you can do that in this game.
Nice run!
In my opinion, this is another great example of the classic charm we consistently see in LEGO games, now in a new form. This game has 18 extras in total, which I would assume is meant to correlate with the amount of mainline story levels, excluding the prologue and epilogue. Out of these 18 extras, 4 of them are brand new to this game. Just like usual, extras can be bought after finding red bricks. In this game, red bricks are hidden across the hub world instead of in levels. This is a big change from the complete saga, but this was actually the trend for LEGO games around this time. It's the same case for both LEGO Harry Potter games and LEGO Pirates, which all released within a similar time frame as LEGO Star Wars 3. The only issue I have with this is that it now gives you one less reason to replay each level, but I still think it's an interesting idea. Something you might notice once you've collected every extra is that there aren't any extras of the goofy variety. No disguise, no super gunk, no poo money. Yes, I know it's a travesty. One of the big aspects of LEGO games is the humor that it adds to the story. Even darker parts of the story aren't safe at times. Don't get me wrong, LEGO Star Wars 3 has a lot of this charm, especially in cutscenes, but it's kind of strange that this doesn't extend to the extras as it usually does. Interestingly, how useful these extras are might just make up for the lack of funny extras. The first new one I'm going to mention is Dual Wield. Not only does it give all Jedi and Sith 2 lightsabers, but it also makes lightsaber users do more damage. We've also got Super Saber Cut, which shortens the time you need to cut a hole with a lightsaber, and Glow in the Dark, which does exactly what you think it does. The most important new one in my opinion is Super Speeders, which lets any speeder in the game destroy any silver or gold buildings. During the large-scale battle levels, it can be kinda annoying to see a gold or silver object and have to trudge back to a command post to spend studs on a tank. This extra makes battle levels feel a lot smoother, and it's incredibly useful in the endgame when you're mostly grinding assault levels. It's unfortunate that we missed out on goofy extras, so I wouldn't say that the extras in LEGO Star Wars 3 are something that stand out to me. Another feature returning from the complete saga is the bounty hunter missions. They function similarly to how they do in the original game, with you needing to find a character in a pre-existing level. You don't need to buy all the bounty hunters beforehand, which means you can get to it a bit earlier. All you need is a bounty hunter, a force user, and access to the invisible hand. I'm not really a huge fan of the bounty hunter missions, whether it be in this game or the complete saga. Looking for the character just feels frustrating to me. In this game, some of the timers feel too short. I still think the bonus level you have to play to unlock the bounty hunter missions is cool though. Out of all the LEGO games released by TT Games, there are only 2 that have a PvP versus mode. You might already know that there's a versus mode in the complete saga, but did you know it's in LEGO Star Wars 3 as well? Just like in the complete saga, there's a good chance many people have never played this mode, mainly because it isn't required to 100% the game to my knowledge. You could collect every minikit, every stud meter, every gold brick, and still never even realize this was in the game. It acts as a PvP version of the ground battle levels. There are 5 different modes, one where you race to destroy the other player's command center, one where you try to destroy all the other players' buildings, another where you try to destroy statues, one where you race to escape the planet, or one where you just collect a certain amount of studs. The player versus player aspect of this mode completely changes the experience of the ground battles, in my opinion. You can't just go to every one of the enemy's command posts and destroy each building anymore. You need to balance when to attack, when to defend, similar to an actual battle. Not only do I really enjoy the versus mode in this game, but I also think it's a step up from the complete saga. If this is the one part of the game you haven't played yet, I'd highly recommend playing it with someone. When LEGO Star Wars 3 released in 2011, it was still pretty commonplace for companies to make handheld versions of games that were completely different from the console version. This game was no different, getting a DS and PSP version, along with the 3DS port, which was a launch title for the system. This was also at a time when TT Games had lots of uniformity between its handheld versions. The DS, 3DS, and PSP all had varying technical specs, but if you look at the different handheld versions of this game, they essentially follow the same formula. I'm going to mainly be using the DS version as footage, just because, I couldn't help myself. The handheld version only has 13 main levels. This means that a few levels from the console game were removed. On handheld, these levels are actually played in the same order that these missions were released as episodes, although it's important to note that that's not the chronological order. So the first level you play is actually Ambush instead of the Geonosis one. Once you get into the first mission, something you'll probably notice is the fact that, to my knowledge, these cutscenes are the exact same as the ones used in the console game. Considering the fact that this is running on the same console as I'd say this is impressive, even if it does look like the video went through an air fryer. LEGO games on DS really have come a long way. A number of mechanics are present in this version as well, but they usually work a bit differently. On the DS and 3DS versions, the game wants you to use the Force with the bottom touchscreen, although you can use a button as a secondary input. It's also not fully controllable like in the console version. You just tap the touchscreen or press O on PSP and it moves the object for you. Clone Troopers work pretty interestingly. The devs were able to implement an aiming system, which I think is pretty cool, and whenever you hold down the fire button, you can strafe and fire in the same direction. Before I even started playing the missions, I was strolling around the hub when I found the custom characters area. I wasn't really sure what to expect when I came into the room, but I was very surprised by what I saw. You start out by selecting a character you've unlocked as a base, and from there you can customize them only using parts from characters that you've unlocked. I love this from a game design perspective. Giving the player another incentive to unlock characters must make it really fun to slowly build up your character roster. And when you finally unlock the last character, I bet it feels incredible to cycle through character pieces knowing you earned every bit of it. I can still see why this wasn't adopted across all versions of LEGO games, since some people might prefer to have all character pieces unlocked at the start. But if it was universally adopted, I doubt I'd be complaining. One other thing I prefer in the handheld version are the vehicle missions. These are actually ahead of their time by controlling a lot more like the ones in the Skywalker Saga. And if you watched my Skywalker Saga comparison video, you probably know how much I like those. We also have 4 different minigames that can be played in the arcade machines in the hub. Once you unlock the red brick in the first mission, you can go to the shop to buy it with studs. After you've done that, you can go to a specific room in the hub where you can play the minigames. These minigames are pretty simple high-score romps. Since these are from the handheld version, I'd assume these were included so you could kill some time during a long car ride. I think it's a good thing that these are here, so even if you've already completed the game, there's at least one thing you can play infinitely. Just to list off some other things, we also have the ability to go to specific sections of a level in free play, which is nice, but also some characters aren't unlocked after playing them in story mode. After I finished the first level, I went to the shop and noticed that Yoda was yet to be purchased. I did notice that the Heavy Clone Trooper was unlocked, so I honestly have no idea why characters work like this. It almost seems unfinished. While this version of the game has some interesting mechanics, I would say that there isn't much reason to play this today. Maybe if you have nostalgia for this version, but I can't think of any reason other than that. In my previous retrospectives, I didn't talk at all about cut content from the game, but after doing some research, there is something I found that I think is interesting. This game has 4 documented characters on the cutting room floor. Who do you think they are? I guarantee you won't guess it. They're not Star Wars characters, not Indiana Jones characters, not even characters from a franchise covered by a Lego game. For some reason, there's character data for real life hosts of the Today Show. So, I guess if you know who Al Roker is and wanted to play as him in a Lego Star Wars game, you were almost able to, I guess. But seriously, this is the most random thing I've ever seen from a Lego game. Like, what does Al Roker have to do with Star Wars? Over the past few years, I have heard so many great things about this game. Because of all this praise, I was very interested in checking out the game and seeing what I think about it. And after finding so many mechanics, an interesting hub world, and massive levels, I would say that I agree with the general consensus. By this point in time, you could tell that TT Games was honing in their craft, not only in the design of the game, but also in its technical aspects. Graphics, lighting, and the amount of enemies that can appear on screen at once is a huge leap from the complete saga. If you've only played that game, I'm sure you'd be amazed by LEGO Star Wars 3. I highly recommend playing it if you haven't already. After looking back on this game, I would be stoked if TT Games announced a new Clone Wars game covering the entire series. Even if it were the same format as the Skywalker saga, it would still be really cool to explore lesser known planets like Christosis or Ryloth. Not to mention that we have 5 seasons of the Clone Wars that have yet to get a LEGO adaptation. Regardless of what TT Games releases next, I'm sure I'll play it for hundreds of hours. Thanks for watching.